Welcome to Sunday, everyone. Namaskar. Into the month of June. It's amazing how every month has its own quality, character. And how the planets are also connected to these months and days. It's amazing. The kind of technology that the universe uses. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. The DNA within us that can fire and is influenced by the environment around us and influenced by our thoughts. And they control the body. So it's wonderful when we can have a relationship with the DNA in the nucleus of every cell. And you can have that. We have the power to communicate with the body more than you can even imagine. We have the power to get into the bones, into the blood, into every cell, into the DNA. And we can influence the genes within us and the brain cells as well. We have that power. We have. But you cannot wield that power, use that power, unless you have control over the mind. The mind is the challenge. Is your mind controlled by your environment, or is your mind controlled by you? Now, honestly tell me. Do you have control over the mind, or does the environment around you and the energies around you and the planetary energies, the genetic energies, do they control you? What controls you? And the people around you, the relationships, do they control you? Or are you in control? Spiritual life is about being in control. Do you think that the divine, who controls the whole universe, that sometimes appears as chaos? The universe has its own order. And everything in the universe is in order. Everything in your life is because of your thoughts. The Buddha said that all that we are is a result of our thought. All that we are is a result of our thought. How true is that? But then Hindu wisdom educates us on karma. That every action we perform has a consequence. And those consequences, they influence us. But thought precedes action. So you can control actions by controlling thought. If you continuously think that you are sick, guess what happens? It's called psychosomatic. Your body becomes sick. And if you constantly think of wellness and well-being and hold it in your mind, not only as a possibility, but as a reality. In your mind, you could hold it as a reality. It may not be existing in the body yet, but in your mind, you're holding it as a reality. Those people who believe that they can do something, they harness all the resources of the body towards it. And it happens. In the Psalms of the Bible, as a person thinketh in their heart, so is that person. As you think, so you become. So if thoughts are so powerful, why don't we learn to control it? Which classroom teaches us how to control the mind? And this is elementary education in spiritual life. Control over the mind. It is called mindfulness. You need to be conscious of your mind and its content. It's like a garden. The same way we clean a garden and we take out the weeds from the garden, we need to do that from the garden of our mind. Take the weeds out and then you plant beautiful things in the garden. How many of you cultivate your mind like a garden? Or do you let your thoughts run wild? So much so that you cannot sleep properly. You cannot meditate properly. The mind is completely out of order, unmanaged. That was the first issue that brought me into spirituality in a deeper way. Because suddenly I realized when I was 20 that I had no control over the mind, and anything that I didn't want to think, my mom wanted to think it. So much so that in my first meeting, not the first, the second, meeting with Sri Satya Sai Baba, when he looked at me, he said, "Your mind, all over the place." Without me saying a word, he looked at me and said, "Mind." How did he know? He said, "But don't worry. That's how he speaks. I'll give you a talisman, and you wear that, and your mind will be fine." Of course, he gave me a talisman the next day in the darshan. But my mind still run wild. But he gave me a blessing that stayed with me. So I wanted instant magic, but that was not to be. But ultimately I realized that he gave me a gift. But perhaps you'll read about that in my autobiography, my meetings with him. But how important it is to control the mind. Of course, you know my story. My heart opened up first in the ashram of Baba Muktanand. I was blessed to meet these two great souls. My heart opened up in his ashram. And then my mind started to come under some kind of control, because I started with the heart. But when I'm singing, my mind is totally in order. When I'm working in the garden and working with love, my mind is totally in order. When I'm doing something, my mind is totally in order. But when I sit for the meditation, still, I wasn't able to conquer the mind. But love dominated my space. And eventually, out of that lovingness, I started to feel a throb at the front brain. And that, when I saw this new exciting development, I focused on it. And I keep on focusing on it. And that drew my mind to center. So I begin to experience a different chakra, Agya chakra. And Agya means to command. That's why we sit here. And for some of you, if not all of you, you will feel that throb between the center of the eyebrows. But start with the heart. The heart will give you the first bit of control. The heart and the breath. And then keep a little focus at the third eye. Magic will happen. And when it does, that's your key to the inside. But you have to be very careful, because it took me quite a while to gain this control over the mind. But practice is the more important thing. And you have to learn to observe your senses. Because what pulls you in the world is the senses. Smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing. They all pull you into the world. So the first thing is controlling the senses. And what does the senses do? They influence the mind. When you smell something, taste something, see something, hear something, touch something, it influences the mind. Thoughts start to arise from that association. But the control of thought is required. You need to be able to control these thoughts. Because when the senses become overwhelmed, The thought is all over the place. How do you control that? And here I want to bring the analogy for you because analogy makes it clearer. The analogy of the chariot and the horses. Now the horses, do you know why they put blinders on the horses? So they can see only forward. They don't want the horses to be distracted at all. So if the horses go wild in a chariot, what happens? But you have a person with reins holding the horses, the charioteer. So charioteer is an important function. So you have it in your buddhi, your intellect, your reasoning. You can reason the thoughts out. And you can decide, I don't want to go this way, but I want to stay here. So the charioteer has to control those horses of the senses. And with the reins is the connection between the intellect, the manas, the mind, the thinking mind, is the connection between the intellect and the senses. So you need the mind, you need those reins to rein in the senses. And the intellect, the reasoning part of you, has to do it. And guess who is in the cabin of the carriage? The Atman, the soul. So the soul is on a ride in the human body with the senses and the intellect. So that charioteer needs to be well informed. That charioteer, which is the ego intellect, needs to be well informed as to where the traveler wants to go. So that intellect can stay at the destination. So you need to have purpose. You need to know why you sit to meditate. You need to know why you're doing any actions. And that needs to be communicated through the intellect. The ego needs to know from that deeper part of you. So ego has to be tied to your higher self, who is in the cabin. So when you come to meditate, and all of you meditated well this morning, I want to congratulate you. I didn't even need to speak, but I just wanted to see if I could uplift you a little more. What you did there, following my guidance, brought you into a better state of mind control. But can it last? The real test of that mind control is when you walk out there and the senses become overwhelmed with everything around you. Is that mind control still there? And the way to maintain mind control is to be able to understand that there is always silence within us, a silent space in which to think. So at the back of the mind is silence. So when we sit to meditate, we try to get away from the thoughts so we can establish ourselves in that silence. But when you get established in that silence, it doesn't matter what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you see, what you touch, it doesn't really matter because it cannot disturb the silence. So clouds can move in the sky, but it cannot disturb the sky. So too, when you go into that silence and the background of the mind, where the divine is, nothing can distract you. So that's a test. So sometimes it's important while you're outside, just keep a mantra in the mind. To maintain the mind. It's like the reins. You keep the mantra in the mind. It holds you in the present moment and it holds the mind under control. Stay with the mantra until you don't need it again. When you don't need it again, it means that you are in the silence. You're in the background. You're seeing everything from in a deeper way, wider perspective. So the mantra has taken you there. So when you realize the fruit of the mantra, the purpose of the mantra, you will be in that state that the mantra takes you all the time. And then anytime you repeat the mantra, that state will become even more established. So the mind needs to be mastered. Remember what the Buddha said. All that we are is a result of our thoughts. And the Bhagavad Gita says that we should lift ourselves by ourselves. We have the power to lift ourselves by ourselves. It says for the self, that ego self can be your greatest enemy or your greatest friend. So you have the power. So make the mind your friend. Make your mind your friend. Not a fight with it, but to rise above it and manage it. So that's the lesson of today. Have a blessed day, everyone. I hope that you'll get a little bit of wisdom from this that you can put into practice. Because you know, right? If you have a book in your library and you don't read it, what is the use of the book there? If you have a piece of furniture and you don't sit on it, what's the use of it? What's the use of knowledge if you don't put it into practice? That's when you get the best benefit out of it. So have a blessed Sunday, everyone. Namaskar.